So how was Labor Day weekend? Short? Yeah, mine was short too. I wish it would have been longer. So going back to the syllabus, this week we're going to talk about LinkedIn and your professional development plans. So LinkedIn today, professional development plans on Thursday. We'll talk about those in depth. And then next week we'll talk a little bit about product service development, and we'll finally we'll decide who's going to work on which project team. Okay, and then we'll start having a lecture and an exercise each week after that. So today, what's that? Somebody say something? Okay. So under the course documents section, I've got some slides here that say professional image development. That's where the slides are for today. So there's basically 5 things I want to go over today. One is just the power of LinkedIn, how powerful of a tool this is for networking. After kind of illustrating to you how to use it as a networking tool, we'll talk about your positioning statement, how important that is in your profile to position yourself correctly as a professional. We'll talk about really leveraging your work that you've done in your homework and class projects, getting that onto your professional profile so that you get credit for all the knowledge and skills that you do have that you've learned here at Cal State. We'll talk about phrasing your profile in terms of accomplishments rather than duties, and putting hard, concrete numbers to what you've done professionally in the past. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about polish and attention to detail. So first of all, the power of LinkedIn. I'm going to pull up my LinkedIn profile here. Thank goodness. It's always like I always log in on my own laptop and the password is in there automatically. I'm always worried that I'm going to that I forget the password when I have to log in again for you guys. So anyway, this is what LinkedIn will look like more or less for you when you first log into your account. There's to be some notifications and so forth. The thing that's truly amazing about LinkedIn is that there's almost no organization in the world where I can't find contacts at this point. So somebody in here mention the name of a company you'd like to know a contact at.
SAIC.
Huh?
SAIC.
SAIC? So if I just type in SAIC, I'll get job results and I'll get people results. So basically there's 102,000 people that somewhere in their profile they have the phrase SAIC. And I can tell which of these people I know, or I know people that know them, based on this little number to the side of their name. If it says first, that means that I should recognize their name because they're a direct contact of mine. If it says second, that means I know somebody who knows this person. If it says third, it means I know somebody who knows that person. And LinkedIn will show you the connections. So if you just look here, Victor Estacio, Network Infrastructure Engineer at SAIC. So if I just want to see people where I have connections, right? Like if we scroll down, actually, I got a lot of connections at SAIC. So if I just want to see first and second connections, hang on, let me do this first. First connections. So if you go on the right hand side here, you can actually, and your profile will look exactly the same as this when you log in. If you click on first on the right hand side there, that will tell you all just the direct contacts that you have at that organization. If you want to know contacts where you know somebody that knows that person, click on second. There's 200. You'll notice here at the top of the screen, there's 218 people where I know somebody that knows them at SAIC. So if we look here at Victor Estacio, one mutual connection. You and Victor both know Terry Lewis. Terry Lewis is kind of a little bit of a headhunter. I don't know him that well. He connected to me a while back, but he has a really large contact network. So if I wanted to get, I'd probably, since I have 218 people where that's the case, I'd probably move on from Terry because I don't know him that well. But if I wanted to go ahead and get introduced to Victor, I could just send a message to Terry and say, hey, Terry, I'm looking for a contact at SAIC. I noticed that you know Victor Estacio. Could you please introduce us? And if they feel comfortable, they can introduce you. The cool thing is that the reason I have you guys all connect to me on LinkedIn is because as soon as you're connected to me, you have access to all my contacts too. So all of these contacts where it says second on my list, it'll say third for you. And when you open it up, it'll say Jeremy Woods knows someone who knows this person. So you ask me, I ask the other person, and if they're okay with making the introduction, they introduce you to that person. So I'm amazed at. I'm connected to a relatively large number of people now, so the more people you're connected to on LinkedIn, the more contacts you have access to. But it's just amazing to me. We could type in almost any company, and I don't know that I have contacts there, but LinkedIn will tell me who I know that knows somebody that's there. It's a truly amazing tool for networking. It's also a great tool for job searches. If you wanted a job at SAIC, they've got 3,000 different job postings available right now on LinkedIn. Obviously, the job search side of using LinkedIn works better when you follow up with an email or a phone call. But there's a lot of jobs listed in here too. Another really powerful thing about LinkedIn is the kind of person you can find. So not only can you find somebody at SAIC or any other company name that you want to find a contact at, if somebody from SAIC is looking for a person with your skill set, they can type in those skills in LinkedIn and it will bring up people that they know that are contacted to that have those skill sets. So as an example, I was working last year. I was working on some software development projects in this class, and I needed to find somebody who knows how to program C++. So I'm a business development guy. I'm a professor. I'm not a code programmer. I have no idea who knows C++, and I have no idea where to start figuring out people who know C++. But LinkedIn can tell me that. If I just go to the search window again and I type C++, enter, it'll give me all the people who have C++ somewhere in their profile, which usually means that they wrote down under their skills and experience that they know how to program C++. That's why it pops up in their profile. So you'll notice there's 4 million results for C++. If I just want the first degree contacts, there's 20 people that I know directly that have C++ experience. Now, I know some of these people better than others. Daniel Dreyer is a former student of mine, so is Christian Russell is actually a student that I met through a networking group here in town. Abdul Majid was a former student of mine, et cetera, et cetera. So I can find some people with the right skill sets. And if you put your profile together to highlight as many skills as possible that you have, then people that are out there that are looking for contacts, looking for people to hire that have the skill sets that you have, you will pop up on their radar as well. So it's important to fill out your profile as robustly as possible because it'll pick up more opportunities for you that way. LinkedIn to me is it's the modern resume. If it were up to me, I wouldn't have like regular resumes anymore. I would just have everybody look at my LinkedIn profile. I wouldn't have a resume. I just have people go and look at my LinkedIn profile. And I think over the course of time, that'll be the case for more and more companies. But certainly for you guys in this class, your LinkedIn profile is your resume, your professional face that you put forward as a small business professional, and that is why I've devoted a whole lecture to it. Going back to the slides again, positioning statement. So if we go to my profile, if you click on me, and you'll have the same thing in your profile where there's a little icon with your picture, it says me. View profile. This is kind of what your screen will look like when you're able to edit and add things to your profile. The first thing that's important here is this summary right at the top. So it's one of the cool things about LinkedIn, and you can do the same thing with a resume too if you just put a positioning statement at the top of a resume. But one thing that a lot of people don't do, which is really valuable and important for your resume or your LinkedIn profile, is to tell people what kind of professional you are. So if you want to be known as a marketing professional, if you want to be known as a small business professional, if you want to be known as a finance professional, if you want to be known as an expert in the agriculture industry, whatever area, banking professional, whatever area it is that you want to get into, whatever area it is that you want to portray yourself as a professional in, you have the opportunity to do that by typing this positioning statement to be whatever you want it to be. So for me, I used to be in the music business. I used to have a different positioning statement here. It used to be international music professional with expertise in licensing and event booking. But as a professor, there's a slightly different image that I want to give off now as a professional, and so it's tailored to be international business development scholar, educator, and consultant with over 20 years of experience. Now, everybody in here, even if you don't have very much job experience, you have at least 4 years of project-based experience because you've been doing projects and homework assignments for your school work for the last 4 years, either here or here and at BC. So depending on what type of professional you want to portray yourself as, you're going to type marketing professional or small business professional or banking professional with X number of years experience. And then you usually put in a few highlights of what you're an expert at. So in my case, small business executive decision making, entrepreneurial project implementation, sales management. These are some of the things that I'm particularly specialist at. And I've done a lot of different projects over the course of the years in Brazil, in Germany, here in the United States. So to summarize all the different types of projects that I've done, I just said key player in a number of educational consulting and business expansion projects. You can put whatever highlights you want in terms of the skill sets that you've learned over the years in your classes and in the jobs that you've done. So I would start with X type of professional with Y number of years of experience, and specialists in X, Y, Z. Something to that effect I think each one of you should have at the beginning of your profile. Very important for positioning yourself the way you want to position yourself in the profile. Next, leveraging the value of educational project deliverables. A lot of times, the work that you guys have done, the homework that you've done in your classes, the projects that you've done for your courses, certainly the small business project that you're going to do in this course, it's more impressive experience than what you actually have for your job. So if you have a job as a barista or a restaurant server somewhere, the homework that you've done in your marketing classes and your finance classes in this class in small business management is much more impressive than just the simple customer service skills and amount of sales volume of food and drink that you've been responsible for. So the nice thing about LinkedIn is it gives you a chance to describe all the things that you've done in your education as if they were job accomplishments. So it gives you a platform for describing that. The way that you add those, here on the right-hand side is this little thing that says Add New Profile section. If you go down to Accomplishments, there's a button that says Projects. If I click on that, I can enter a project name, start and end date, and a brief description of the project. So if I close this again and go down to the existing projects that I already have in here, 4 projects. So applications development using VBA, this is a good example of turning homework assignments into a job accomplishment. So when I was doing my PhD back at the University of Cincinnati, I took a class on Visual Basic programming. That's what this project here is. So the way that I put this together is I just went back and looked at the syllabus for that class and reminded myself, what did we do for homework assignments in that class? Well, once I went back and looked at the syllabus, I realized that we did like 6 different programming assignments where we had to program some code and make Excel do X or do Y. And I went back and looked at how long the programs were and came up with the description that's right here. Participated in a class on Visual Basic Programming. Real simple. Deliverable accomplishments include the following. wrote approximately 500 lines of Visual Basic code spread across multiple subroutines for 6 different class projects. So this kind of leads in a bit to the next thing I want to talk about, which is accomplishments versus duties. You want to put numbers to your projects, associate concrete numbers with the different things that you've accomplished as a professional. So any class that you've taken here at Cal State, certainly this class and the project that you're going to do for the small business is a project that you should have in your LinkedIn profile. All of your other homework assignments can potentially be written up like in this format as well to give you credit for the skill sets that you've actually practiced and become good at in your education. So the next thing here, duties versus accomplishments. There's two different ways to describe. There's two different ways to describe what you've done professionally. You can either describe it as the duties that you were responsible for, or you can describe it in terms of the things that you accomplished. I want you guys to describe your work experience in terms of the things that you've accomplished. So this is an example here of a student of mine from a couple years ago who described their work experience as duties. So responsibilities included opening and closing the store, creating work schedules, receiving weekly shipments and entering them into inventory, running day-to-day operations, resolving customer complaints, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I want to know how many work schedules did he create? What was the dollar value of the weekly shipments they received? How many employees did he manage in the day-to-day operations? So these don't have to be exact numbers. They're ballpark numbers. So if for the receiving weekly shipments, for example, if on an average week, like the things that he receives are like boxes of T-shirts, boxes of shoes, boxes of footballs. It's a sporting goods store. So if on average he receives 10 boxes a week, and each box, like and a box, for example, has 50 T-shirts in it. The T-shirts sell for $20 a piece. So a ballpark way of estimating how much, estimating what the inventory value is that you were responsible for is just multiply 50 T-shirts times $20, which should be 5,000. It should be $10,000. Is that right? Or is it $1,000? Am I doing the numbers wrong?
50 times 20.
50 times 20. Huh? Okay. So that's $1,000 worth of inventory that he was responsible for handling. I want you to describe your professional accomplishments like that, rather than just saying what you were responsible for doing. So, an example of this from my own profile. This is a job that I had for about a year after my first business. After I started my first business and closed that, I worked as a headhunter for about a year. So I usually give one sentence which describes the duties. Not any more than that. So, account executive responsible for acquiring, scoping, and managing finance and accounting consulting projects. One sentence that describes the duties, and then after that you put the phrase deliverable accomplishments include the following, colon, and then move down, and you're going to just list bullet points of things that you accomplished in that job. So the things that I was proud of in that job were, one, how much money I brought in for the company, and two, how many projects how many contacts I talked to. I was always, as a salesman, I'm not a very good closer, but I'm a great opener. I've always been really good at talking to new, strange contacts, making cold calls, setting up meetings to open up new conversations. So I wanted to have something in there that talked about how many new customers I talked to. So I sat down and thought about, okay, over the course of the year that I was there, I did about, what was it? I did about 20 projects. Each one of them went for, I can't remember how I calculated this so that it adds up to the right numbers, but 20 projects, each of which went for about a month long. And that was a month long, which basically turns into 150 hours worth of billing. The 150 hours was billed, 150 hours times $100 per hour is what we usually charge for a consultant. 150 times 100 should be 15,000. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So 15,000 for one project multiplied by 20 projects. That's 300,000, I think. So when I originally did the calculation, I came up with 250,000 instead of 300,000. But just ballpark numbers like that. Okay, how many projects did I do over the year? Well, probably about 20. How much did I charge for a project? Well, it was about $100 an hour, and it was about a month worth of work, which was about 150 hours. So 150 hours times $100 times 20 projects is probably what I made for the company over the course of the year. So that's how I came up with that number. Same thing for number of meetings with key clients. I just thought about how many meetings did I have in an average week, and I multiplied that by 50 weeks in a year. So if I had, on average 5 meetings a week times 50 would be 250, is that right? So I originally came up with 300 meetings, but if I just do ballpark off the top of my head, okay, usually on an average week I had about 10 meetings. And a work year is usually about 50 weeks. You got about 2 weeks off of vacation. A year is 52 weeks. So 50 weeks times 10 meetings a week is about 250 meetings per year. When I calculated it originally, it was 300, but that's the way you come up with these ballpark figures for your work experience. So I want you guys to describe your work experience in terms of accomplishments rather than duties. Then finally, polish and attention to detail. It's some of my colleagues and some people in the world today complain that like millennials can't spell, or millennials don't have very good grammar or whatever. I don't think that's actually correct. If you look back at like the Declaration of Independence, or you look at documents that are in museums from the 1600s, 1700s, they have all kinds of spelling errors in them all over the place. It's almost like people decided their own way of spelling the word, and everybody had a different way of spelling the same word. It's not new that people have issues with spelling and with proper grammar. The difference is that we live in a digital world today, so everything you write is easily available for other people to read. So all of the errors that you make, they're just much more visible than they would have been 100 years ago or 50 years ago when there wasn't so much digital connectivity in the world. So it's a small thing, but I go through my profile a couple times a year and just read it, and sometimes I'll notice, well, this phrase is a little bit wrong, and I change it again. Like, you want to keep going through your profile again and again, and every time you see an error, edit it and fix it. So over the course of time, you get more and more polished. So it's small things, but if you look here, this is an example of a paragraph that one of my students wrote for a project that they did in their strategy class that they had with me. Created a company comparison template between two rival firearms companies, showcasing is one word, not two. The advancements, struggles, and improvements the company could choose for the years to come. For years to come, not the years to come. Every place that there was an error, I put a little red cross. It's small stuff, but because it's so visible, you really want to go through your profile on a regular basis and look for any errors that you find and correct them, because it just looks unprofessional to have spelling and grammar errors in your profile. But I don't blame you for it. It's a problem that we all have, and unfortunately, you're just more on the spot than prior generations in history, because your whole profile is available online for everybody to see. So that is actually those are the main points that I wanted to go through. Before we call it a day, because we're only at 10 after 6 right now, I want to go through a couple people's profiles. So who is willing to be the guinea pig here?
I'll do it.
Actually, all three of you raise your hand, so we'll do one after the other. Tell me your name again.
Graham Petrie.
How do you spell your last name?
Pitre.
There you go. I didn't accept your request yet. Now I did.
Right.
I've been too busy to go in and do all the request acceptances.
We'll get a message once you accept it, right?
Yes, you will. Why is it not accepting right now?
It's making you look bad.
Huh?
It's making you look bad.
It is.
Promoting LinkedIn.
Okay, so Graham, acquisitions manager at Motor City Lexus Bakersfield. Nice. Motor City Auto Center, Bakersfield. Experienced manager with a demonstrated history of working in the automotive industry. How many years?
This is my 5th year.
Okay. So I would put something in there about 5 years of experience. Skilled in Microsoft Office, customer service, Microsoft Word, sales and strategic planning. Strong professional working towards a Bachelor of Science focused in management. So that's a pretty cool overview of your main skill sets. I personally think that Excel, Word, are sort of ubiquitous skill sets that everybody has. If you're an acquisitions manager at Motor City Lexus, does that mean you acquire new cars for them? So you go out and buy cars?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I made this profile last semester as part of another class,
Mhm.
so I definitely need to go back through and add this hard.
yeah, I would add something about specialist in
Wholesale auction sites or something.
in wholesale inventory valuation, something like that. Experience. So here,
I just deleted one of those.
huh?
I just deleted that top one.
You did?
Yeah, because it just seemed like it was just doubled up.
What, acquisitions manager?
And then it said it right below it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I manage the pricing strategy for the used car inventory. So first of all, when you add a company, there's the ability to, when you type in the name of the organization, it'll give you a bunch of organizations that are like pre-selected. If you go through and probably Motor City Lexus has a LinkedIn page. So if you go and connect yourself to the official like LinkedIn page of Motor City Lexus, then there'll be a picture that appears here instead of just a blank icon.
So what size business would you need to be to create a page of LinkedIn and make it actually be something useful? Where would it not be a waste of your time?
I think any size business, really. I mean, I mean, it depends on the kind of business that you have, but if I had my old music licensing business, that was just me basically negotiating contracts. I would still have a LinkedIn page that had the logo of the company and a brief description of what we do. Okay, so Graham, I manage the pricing strategy for the used car inventory, appraised vehicles for acquisition, and manage descriptions of the used car inventory. That's fine. I'd like a phrase though. Deliverable accomplishments include the following, and things like how many total. Do a ballpark estimate of how many cars you probably purchased over the course of the time that you were doing that job, and about how much were the cars worth.
Okay.
So you can ballpark that. I'd put in there, a bullet point. Deliverable accomplishments include the following, and then say acquired $1.5 million worth of vehicle inventory over the course of 2 years, something like that.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, great.
Okay. Education is fine. It used to be that you can connect projects to your education. So when you create a project, it used to be that you could link it to Cal State Bakersfield or link it to a job. I'm not sure if LinkedIn still allows you to do that. They changed some of the formatting a little while ago, and I can't figure out how to do it anymore.
I think I just did it. As you were mentioning about the project adding,
Mhm.
adding one I did over the summer. For
Okay.
CSUB, and can you see any projects on there? Or is that
Let's go down further. Projects. I was part of a student team of 7 people with primary instruction from Professor Alban Padilla. Over the summer of 2017, we worked on constructing over 20 data sets made up of California taxable sales and annual crop reports for Kern County from 2000 to 2016. I like this. That's really good.
Okay.
I just want you to add more.
Okay. I'll figure that out.
So that's one project. I'd like to see one project for each class that you've taken here.
Okay.
Certainly, the project that you do in this class you can put in there,
Great.
and so forth and so on. You can also add courses to your education.
Okay.
So you can go in and list all of the courses that you've taken.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
You might want to do that too, so that you got to get credit for all the different courses that you've taken.
Okay.
You can link that to your education as well. Featured skills and endorsements, that's fine. Projects, interests. Yeah, otherwise it looks good. I forget, what are your plans after graduation?
Just skip me on that.
Huh?
Skip me on that question.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have some things in the works, but.
Well, depending on what you want to do, there's lots of great groups on LinkedIn. Like, there's a group for music professionals. There's a group for the agriculture industry.
Right.
There's a group for the oil industry. So depending on which direction you go in, I definitely join some groups on LinkedIn that are focused on those areas.
Okay. A couple of them right there.
Yeah, you got some. I just add a few more too.
Great. Thank you.
No problem. Tell me your name.
Kevin Hiles, Hiles.
Hoes.
Iles.
Iles. There we go. So I can't remember. Graham, did you have a picture? Okay, good. So, Kevin, I'd add a picture. And for all of you in this class, like, if for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable having a picture of yourself on your profile, choose a picture of a landscape or a logo or a picture of some kind. You don't want to have that blank. You want to have some kind of picture in there. It's the common custom on LinkedIn is to have a picture of yourself there. If for whatever reason you don't want to put a picture of yourself on LinkedIn, make sure to put a picture of an icon or a landscape or something there so it's not blank. So, Kevin, I'd fill that in. I wonder why accepting is not working. Kevin Hiles is now connected. That worked. The last accept didn't work. So I would add a positioning statement here.
Okay.
So right at the beginning, you should have the opportunity to add a summary.
And that's with years and dollar amounts doing things, right?
Yeah, so I forget, what's your professional background?
For the past few years, I've been working independent by buying beer and spirits.
Okay. So is that, what do you want to do in the future?
Open my own place.
Huh?
Open my own place, kind of similar.
Okay, so you could put small business professional with 2 years of experience in the alcoholic beverages sector. Specialties include inventory acquisition, whatever, something like that. Make sense? Okay. For experience, I want you to add descriptions here. So, besides just specialist in wine, beer, and spirits, one sentence, what were you responsible for doing? Responsible for acquiring inventory of wine, beer, and spirits for the company, period. Deliverable accomplishments include the following. I would want to know, similar to Graham, what was the value of the inventory? So ballpark in your head, how many cases, how many bottles of whatever did you buy for the company, or did you acquire or receive for the company?
And that's weekly, or is that just pick a time frame?
Pick a time frame. Doesn't matter. Weekly, monthly, annually. Okay? And do the same thing for SAIC. Same thing for the Army. One sentence about the duties, and then at least one deliverable accomplishment, preferably more. For your education, I'd add a brief description of maybe what your focus area was. But otherwise, you've got the education in there. That's fine. I would definitely add projects, though. So, what are some of the classes besides this one that are? I mean, I'm not going to. What are some of your favorite classes that you've taken over the course of the time you've been at CSUB?
They've pretty much all been business related or accounting related or something like that. So just kind of
Pick one.
Project for managerial accounting.
Managerial accounting.
Yeah.
What were the homework assignments for managerial accounting?
Maybe that was a bad example because we'd have a huge project for that one. So on macro econ, we had to do a big presentation on the state of the market.
Okay.
We just
So
talked about that.
I would create a project. Title of the project is something like managerial economics course project.
Okay.
And then the description would read something like, together with 3 teammates, worked 4 months long on an analysis of the market, which identified potential market value of $3 million. I don't know, but something to that effect. And every class that you've taken that you think added to your skills as a professional, I'd add a project from that.
Okay.
Even if the project is, so, for example, what was the first one that you said? Managerial economic?
Accounting, yeah.
Managerial accounting. So, did you have homework assignments, or was it just like exams?
Yeah, it was a little of both. There was a little longer line homework assignments.
Okay, so you for that one you could either put student in a managerial accounting class. Deliverable accomplishments include the following: colon, space, new line. Completed six different homework assignments, each of which contain approximately 10 line items, period. So even the classes that didn't have projects, you can kind of turn the homework assignments or the exams, participated in an exam that covered 10 major concepts of managerial accounting, achieved a score of 95%.
Did you put projects of that scale, or like homework assignments and tests on there when there's stuff like intelligence analyst and things like that? Like, that would still hit?
I would pick the most important ones. So, like, I don't have very many projects on mine, just because, just like you said, I have a lot of regular career experience now.
Sure.
So there's less projects on there. But the ones that I did put on there, I tried to choose projects that otherwise wouldn't be represented anywhere on my profile. So nowhere in my profile does it say that I know how to program Visual Basic. I do. I'm not very good at it, but I kind of know how to program Visual Basic. So that's a skill set that otherwise wouldn't be on my profile anywhere. So I'd focus on classes that show skills that otherwise don't come through in your profile. Make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Savannah, right?
Yeah.
I forget what's your last name, Savannah?
It's one in.
Huh?
One in.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
There we go. Is this you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got the picture there. Experienced credit analyst with a demonstrated history of working in the banking industry. How many years?
8.
8? I put that down somewhere with 8 years of experience. Skilled in risk management, commercial lending. Yeah, I like it. I just add the 8 years. And then experience. I'd go back in first of all and try to link to the official Mission Bank. Could you not find it? That's okay. If you can't find it, you can't find it. But go in and add descriptions to these. So, credit analyst responsible for reviewing client applications for credit and determining suggestions for business, period. Deliverable accomplishments include the following. I would look at the total number of customers that you analyzed, the total value of loans, something like that. And then for compliance specialists, again, I'd focus on number of clients or number of regulations, number of sort of reports that had to be done. Ops assistant, what did you do in that job?
Teller.
Okay, so for a teller, I'd talk about how many customers you saw on an average day or in an average week. Administrative assistant, what did you do for that job?
Kind of the same as compliance specialist.
Which is? I don't know. Tell me.
Well, it was BSA, so basically, so we were finding out customer fraud and stuff like that.
Okay. So,
So, yeah, so I can put how many customers I reviewed.
yeah, perfect.
For account activity.
Perfect. Then education, again, I'd put something, excuse me. I would put something in the description section of the education, talking about your focus area, something like that, but otherwise it's fine. And then I'd add projects. So, what are some classes that you've taken at CSUB that otherwise, like, are skills that you've never used in banking?
Not business classes.
Huh?
Classes that aren't with business.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, in this class, just because this is a business class, whatever project you end up working on is going to be like, a marketing plan or a financial projection. I mean, it's something different than what you normally do in your daily job. Or I would focus on those non-business classes to show more of the skill sets that you got here at Cal State. Things that don't come through necessarily on your banking experience. Make sense? Does that make sense to everybody else in here? Yes, no, maybe? Eventually, I will go through and give each of you feedback on what I want you to change about your profile. I just did a couple examples in class here today. Does anybody else want me to go through theirs while we're here? Okay, that's fine. So I will eventually get back to you with suggestions on the edits I want you to make to your profile, okay? And then that's part of your grade for the class. As soon as you make the edits, you get the 100 points for that part of the grade. See you guys on Thursday.
Or on our syllabus,
Uh-huh.
are those just like, is there any like webpage that we go for like readings or anything, or is just whatever we review in class?
Say again.
So like, is there any reading or anything that we have to do for this class, or is it just whatever we review in class?
It's pretty much whatever we review in class.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's what I was getting. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you.
No problem.
Sir, for accomplishments, is it the volunteering work?
Say again?
For accomplishments,
Mm-hmm.
is it the volunteering work? It's accounting in that area, or my experience?
I do both. Volunteer work and work experience.
But for the volunteering, which area can I put it?
Oh, there's a special area for volunteer experience.
Oh.
There's a different area for volunteer experience.
And I have like 10 years season work for
Mhm.
short amount of time. And if you know, in Muslims we have a Hajj season.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked for 10 or 11 years for 60 days yearly, annually.
Okay.
Is that like?
Yeah, I'd put that in your work experience.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay.
Yes.
You had something like connected to you on Facebook.
Say again.
You had something to mention something about Facebook on your.